This is the Spring Weather Outlook, sponsored by Jerry Kelly.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton, joining you now from the Sophia M. Sachs Butterfly House for this special edition of First Alert 4 at 6:30, the Spring Weather Outlook, located in Foss Park in Chesterfield. The Butterfly House is home to over 60 tropical species, including this little guy on my sleeve here, and actually 150 tropical plants. It's a great setting here as we prepare you for what can be wild weather here in the St. Louis region. The First Alert 4 weather team is making sure you're ready for whatever happens, from severe weather stats to battling allergies, and making sure you know how to keep yourself safe if the worst happens. Now, last spring was brutal. In 2 decades of forecasting St. Louis weather, it was one of the most unrelenting and devastating spring severe seasons I have witnessed. 36 tornadoes struck the First Alert 4 region in the span of just 2 months. As the community continues to rebuild, here's a look back on the destruction. March 14th kick-started the severe weather season as we had 15 tornadoes alone on that day, one striking Arnold hard.
You just could hear it. Lights went out. We lost power immediately.
An EF2 twister that day ripped through Chesterfield and then Maryland Heights, forcing us to evacuate our studio. There is rotation right here coming at Maryland Heights. It'll take me about a minute to get downstairs, and we'll resume our coverage from our downstairs studio. It then went over the airport and caused significant damage to homes in Bridgeton and West Alton.
You could hear the wind picking up and just suddenly sound like a freight train was on top of the house.
We also saw twisters from Villa Ridge to Wildwood, tearing through Purina Farms, and more tornado damage in Rolla and Trenton, Illinois. And it wasn't just tornadoes that day, but huge hail. This video coming from Pacific that day. April had 4 days with a total of 11 tornadoes touching down in our region, including a strong EF3 tornado near Potosi. And then the May 16th tornado hit St. Louis.
It was something straight out of a movie, a true nightmare.
With peak winds at 152 miles per hour that ripped through Clayton, Forest Park, and devastated parts of North City.
This entire right side of the roof, a little bit past the chimney, completely ripped off.
The storms that day killed 5 people.
Pushed her back, pulled her back. The wind was so strong. So he lost her.
Eventually, those powerful winds ripping across the river, damaging Illinois communities too, like Granite City.
Horrible, traumatizing. It was just devastating.
And about 120 miles south of St. Louis, the town of Des Arc in Iron County was hit a second time.
This is devastating for most of us.
Damaging some of the same buildings from their March 14th tornado. Fewer false alarms, better alerts. The outdoor warning sirens you've relied on for years are getting major upgrades, and meteorologist Leah Hill explains how it could change how you respond to severe weather.
We've been getting more and more severe weather here in the metropolitan area over the last handful of years.
In the last 5 years, St. Louis County has been hit by over a dozen tornadoes, but more frequently, we hear the sirens going off.
People wouldn't take them as seriously.
The clouds are crazy.
When seconds matter, complacency is dangerous. Just in time for severe weather season, changes are coming in 3 counties. Now, when the sirens go off, the threat is closer.
We wanted to decrease the rate of what people felt were false alarms, so they would take the sirens more seriously when they did hear them.
St. Charles County is broken into 4 zones. Zone 1 includes the region around the confluence zone of the Missouri and Mississippi. Zone 2 is the most densely populated, with O'Fallon, St. Charles, and St. Peters.
Zone 3 is going to be more Lake St. Louis and Wentzville, where Zone 4 is New Melle, Defiance, and Augusta.
These zones are based on historic tornado paths dating back decades. St. Louis rolled out their county siren zones last year.
Once that polygon's drawn, if it's solely in one zone, only that zone will sound. No other part of the county will go off. If that polygon covers 2 zones, both those 2 zones that are touched will simultaneously go off.
The St. Louis County sirens are fully automated.
I want to make it to where you trust us more, you trust the public safety agencies more that are around you, so that if those sirens do go off, you know something's coming your way.
The changes don't stop there. Jefferson County is taking a new approach to outdoor warning sirens. For years, their siren coverage was limited. Now, a new system is being built from the ground up.
Before this, we didn't have any sirens in Jefferson County, except in the municipalities where they do have systems.
With rapid growth outside of the municipalities, the needs have changed.
It's just going to be another layer in a multi-tier warning system for our residents.
101 warning sirens are being installed across the county, all fully automated. While many are available now, the system will be fully operational by summer.
We will continue to install those over the course of the spring.
Sirens will activate depending on where the warning is drawn.
I think it's also important to remember that this is just a single layer inside of the warning system that we have in place as a community.
Sirens are only meant to be heard by those who are outside. It's a bonus if you hear them indoors.
The sirens do not give detailed information.
When you hear sirens, your first action is clear. Seek shelter immediately, then get the details. That's where we come in. Our meteorologists at First Alert 4 will be live streaming on our apps or on the air during severe coverage, giving you the information on where the threat is and where it's heading. Sirens are just one piece of the puzzle. Pair them with a no-weather radio, phone alerts, and our First Alert 4 coverage, and that's how you stay safe this spring.
Spring is peak severe weather season here in the Midwest. But what is it about this time of year and this part of the country that makes us a target? Well, First Alert meteorologist Matt Chambers explains the science behind why St. Louis is in the bullseye.
The Midwest is an atmospheric crockpot during the spring months. Add just the right ingredients in just the right amounts, and suddenly you're cooking up dangerous thunderstorms.
Oh, man!
Tornadoes, lightning, hail, damaging winds. There are very few places on Earth that can match the intensity of springtime thunderstorms right here in the middle of America. And that's not a coincidence, that's science. You see, spring is when the atmosphere over Missouri and Illinois tends to line up the three key ingredients you need for severe thunderstorms: moisture, a clash of warm and cold, and strong winds upstairs that we call the jet stream. Let's start with ingredient number one, moisture. If you were to follow the Mississippi River all the way to its end, you'd wind up in the Gulf of Mexico. This massive and warm body of water is actually the main source of atmospheric moisture for our spring thunderstorms. Winds turn out of the south more and more often during the spring months, and that sends warm, humid air from the Gulf northward. That sticky air, that's fuel for thunderstorms. They absolutely feed on it. So when you feel that first jump in humidity, what you're actually feeling is the arrival of ingredient number one, moisture. That brings us to ingredient number two, a clash of air masses. And this is where geography is critically important. After a long winter, cold air will still occasionally seep southward out of Canada, while at the same time, warm, almost summer-like air surges north from the Gulf. Where those two air masses collide along fronts, we call them, the air is forced upward, and that lift can cause thunderstorms to fire fast. This is a critical part of thunderstorm formation. No lift, no storms. Finally, we come to ingredient number three, the jet stream. You see, several miles up, intense winds are very common in the springtime, sometimes screaming in at more than 200 miles per hour. That fast-moving air upstairs in the atmosphere causes the air below it to rise. And when wind speed or direction changes with height, that can cause the storms to organize more efficiently, to last longer, and even rotate. That shear, as we call it, can lead to large hail, damaging winds, and tornadoes.
That's a violent tornado.
To put it simply, when it comes to severe thunderstorms, spring is king. Let's do a little seasonal comparison here. In the winter months heading into spring, you've got a howling jet stream, but you've got no real warmth or humidity to fuel strong thunderstorms. Once spring is over, in the summer months, of course, you got all kinds of heat and humidity, right? But there's no cold air for it to clash with. And on top of that, the jet stream tends to relax. So summer storms, more spotty, less organized. But in the spring, as Goldilocks would say, It's just right. Humidity returns, you've got strong fronts that generate lift, and the jet stream helps to keep these thunderstorms organized. And that, my friends, sounds like the perfect recipe for severe thunderstorms. Smells like spring. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers, First Alert 4.
Spring is known for its wild weather and its allergens. You may already be feeling the impacts of this allergy season, and First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart shows us what to expect and how to get through it.
Ah, spring. The warmer temperatures.
Say your name.
Kiki. Longer days. Outdoor sports.
Bullpen as that one hit high in the air to left. Bader back to the wall. It's gone.
And spring showers lead to flowers and trees in bloom. These are all things we look forward to. Oh, but not the pollen. While allergens are present all year long, they definitely peak in the spring when plants, grasses, and trees like to make whoopee. In the early spring, tree pollen is the first to arrive. It covers our cars and makes life miserable for those who are allergic. While grass, tree, and weed pollen comes and goes in the warm summer months, mold spores are increasing in volume. Try as you might, you can't avoid allergens, but you can minimize your exposure. Start by checking daily pollen counts. The St. Louis County Public Health Department issues pollen reports every weekday, and the results are published every morning. You can find them on the KMOV website, as well as our weather and news apps, and during many of our weather reports. On those high pollen days, you may want to limit your outdoor exposure. Stay inside and keep the windows closed. Use an air purifier in your home or office. Wash your bedding frequently in hot water. Over-the-counter prescription antihistamines, nasal sprays, eye drops, they can help to reduce the effects. So what are the expectations for 2026? Temperature and precipitation patterns have a direct influence on pollen production, and climate change is lengthening the growing season, so pollen production overall is expected to become more prevalent. The seasonal outlook from the Climate Prediction Center calls for above normal temperatures and rainfall for most of our area this spring. Rain showers can temporarily reduce the amount of pollen in the air, but they can also promote additional growth and, you guessed it, pollen production. Kent Earhart, First Alert 4.
Still ahead on this spring weather outlook, we're breaking down our own predictions month by month and a deeper look into the stats, the areas that see the most tornadoes this time of the year, and the change in the trend from year to year. And after the break, a St. Louis area gem, a look at the fun and wonder you can expect this spring at the Butterfly House. But before we go, here's some weather trivia. Last spring was extremely busy as we had 36 tornadoes over about a 2-month span in our coverage area, more than double the yearly average. But how many of those tornadoes were rated EF2 or higher, meaning significant damage or worse? The answer after the break.
You're watching the Spring Weather Outlook, sponsored by Jerry Kelly. This is the Spring Weather Outlook, sponsored by Jerry Kelly.
Before the break, we asked weather trivia about our very busy spring last year. How many of the 36 spring tornadoes were rated EF2 or higher? The answer, 14 tornadoes were EF2 to EF3, which means 39% of last season's tornadoes caused significant damage or worse. As we prepare for severe weather season, some areas face a much greater risk than others. While tornadoes can't touch down anywhere, certain regions see them far more frequently. First Alert meteorologist Chance Gotch is breaking down the areas hit hardest by twisters and what the numbers reveal about where and when we should expect the most dangerous storms.
As we close in on spring, you might hear tornado sirens more often. And it's pretty common being in the St. Louis area. So common, you might have heard the phrase Tornado Alley. Well, in 2025, Illinois ranked number 2 and Missouri number 3 in the number of tornado occurrences based off National Weather Service preliminary survey reports. Now, it's so common that I wanted to find out if Tornado Alley is shifting, so I took a deeper dive.
Currently be in like the Midwest area.
More towards Missouri than it was before.
People think that it's actually shifting and becoming bigger.
Surprisingly enough, there's not a well-defined tornado alley in the United States. I talked to Harold Brooks, who is a senior research scientist at NOAA's National Severe Storm Laboratory, to investigate more.
If people have thought that Tornado Alley was something that was a feature of the plains of the United States, then they're including information that's more than just the occurrence.
When looking at the occurrence of tornadoes through a specialized parameter used by Brooks in his research, overall, there has been less change than you might think.
If we look at long-term trends in tornado occurrence in the United States, we see that the number of tornadoes per year really hasn't changed in the last 75 years.
This means there is not an overall shift in trends for tornadoes. One change that has been documented has been a slight change in the tornado occurrences across the Deep South.
It's a 10% change.
This equates to about one tornado happening closer for those in the South in a lifetime than before. Being in the Midwest over the Great Plains, the chance of seeing tornadoes throughout the entire year increases over just the severe storm season. And the time at which they can occur more often during the 24-hour time span of a day also increases.
So the big message always for tornadoes is to be prepared.
Now, being in an area where that time period for tornado threat is a little bit more variable than the Great Plains, it's that much more important that you have a way to receive your weather information as we head into the severe weather season. Chance Gotch, First Alert 4.
This weekend, clocks will spring forward 1 hour, and that kicks off daylight saving time. While the extra sunshine at the end of the day is welcome, it can be tough to adjust. According to a national study, daylight saving time reportedly disrupts the sleep patterns of more than 300 million people. And doctors say it can lead to serious health problems like a heart attack and stroke. And overall, it can just be a pain for some people.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks. I don't like it. It sucks.
I end up being 2.5 hours later with, getting to bed.
Now, experts offer some tips to adjust for the week, like avoiding alcohol, going to sleep 15 to 30 minutes earlier, and getting sunlight in the morning. As you gear up for spring, the Butterfly House can be a great spot to immerse yourself in nature. Our Kristen Cornett has the story of this landmark and what they have in store for you in the coming months.
If you visited the Butterfly House in Faust Park, you know it's packed with beautiful sights.
For Morphomania, we bring in 1,000 blue morphos, about the size of my hand, bright, brilliant blue, and we have all our other butterflies.
But in the month of March, the space gets a lot more blue.
On a bright sunny day, they fill the air, and it's a sight you can't see anywhere else.
During this time, more than 2,000 butterflies fill the air. And if you want a taste of summertime, look no further.
Where I'm standing right now, it's about 85, 90 degrees and very humid. It's like a tropical oasis.
And for those who are bug enthusiasts, you can get up close and personal.
You can come and see someone holding a giant millipede or a beetle. You can pet it if you want to.
But if butterflies are more your speed,
for $5, you can buy a release ticket and set free your own butterfly.
The Sophia M. Sachs Butterfly House is open Tuesdays through Sundays until 4 p.m. For First Alert 4, I'm Kristen Cornett.
Here's a look at some of the big events in St. Louis this spring, including Animals Aglow at the zoo. That kicks off March 12th. And then, of course, we have the Cardinals home opener on March 26th. Then there's the Art Fair in Queenie Park, St. Louis Earth Day Festival, and Chinese Culture Days, and much, much more across the St. Louis Metro. Up next, the Spring Weather Outlook. We'll break down our predictions for this season month by month. But first, our final weather trivia question. True or false? If you hear the storm sirens twice, that means it's all clear. The answer coming up after the break.
You're watching the Spring Weather Outlook, sponsored by Jerry Kelly. This is the Spring Weather Outlook, sponsored by Jerry Kelly.
Before the break, we asked true or false. If you hear the sirens twice, that means it's all clear. Well, the answer is absolutely false. Now, you may hear sirens multiple times from multiple warnings or a persistent warning. But let's keep things simple when it comes to the sirens with 3 rules. 1, don't rely solely on sirens. We know technology fails. 2, make sure to have multiple ways to get warnings, including the free First Alert 4 weather app and a weather radio. And 3, if you hear sirens, get indoors and get more information. You can watch second-by-second updates on the free First Alert 4 live stream as we track the tornado. Well, last spring will always be remembered for severe weather and powerful tornadoes that hit the area. And while we cannot predict specific severe weather events on a seasonal basis, we will issue First Alert weather days well in advance when we see severe threats to make sure you're prepared, alert, and safe. Now, flood outlooks are issued on a seasonal basis, and the good news is that the low rivers and the snowpack in the northern U.S. mean we have low chances for flooding, particularly on the Mississippi and the Missouri rivers. However, that can all change depending on spring rainfall. And for March, I do expect a wetter than normal month. That means an active month, but it doesn't always equate to severe weather. I expect temperatures to average out close to normal, a far cry from last March, which was the 5th warmest on record. But I do expect the typical wild temperature swings we get in the spring. Last April was the wettest on record, almost 11 inches of rain. I don't expect to rival that record, but I do anticipate a wetter than normal trend from March to continue into April. April also looks to warm quickly as we put winter in the rearview mirror, and I expect a warmer than normal month. Then I expect May will continue the warm trend with a warmer than normal month, which means some hot days into the 90s to finish out our spring. But I expect the rainfall to trend down with below normal rainfall. Now, despite drier than normal, May is actually one of our wettest months on average, so we still expect some rainy days. Now, First Alert 4 wants you to stay safe this spring weather season, so stay connected with us with the First Alert 4 weather app. You'll get radar and alerts based on your location. We'll make sure you're prepared, alert, and safe. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you at 10.
This has been the Spring Weather Outlook, sponsored by Jerry Kelly.